Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Big Blonde and Beautiful, the podcast. If you're new here, my name's Carolina Howie, and each week I pick a piece of media and I talk about the fat representation in it and whether or not I think it's positive or negative. This week, I'm going to be talking about the movie The Heat. But first, I want to introduce a very special guest, Marcy Guevara Preet. Would you mind telling our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Thanks for having me. My name's Marcy Guevara Preet, as Caroline said. Carolina, right? Carolina, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. Yes, I am actually very interested in TV and film and movies, a total media junkie. And I have my master's in communication from USC and did my thesis on how fat people are portrayed on television. So aside from that, I've been a reality producer for the last 8 years and a moonlight as the co-owner of the Plus Bus, LA's premier destination for plus size fashion. So I'm uniquely qualified to talk about The Heat, or any movie, actually.
Love it if you could talk about growing up plus size.
So my experience growing up plus size is pretty interesting to me. I think I've been unpacking it a lot lately. And basically, looking back on photos was really not very fat. But I was raised in a home where obesity was definitely at the forefront of our family. And my grandmother was, suffered from her weight or whatever you want to say for her entire life. And ultimately, my mother was her child, taking her to doctor's appointments and translating for doctors and hearing things at 9 years old that no doctor should ever tell a 9-year-old or ever speak about someone's body in such a way. To tell a 9-year-old your mom is like a Volkswagen driving up a hill with 9 people in it, a Volkswagen Bug, is just so harsh and fat phobic. And so of course my mother grew up with insane fear of being fat, and that translated into her own war with her body and then passing that on to me. So I definitely understand that our parents have only acted out of their own trauma and are only doing the best that they can. And I hope that our work that we're doing heals them, because I remember meeting your mom at the store, and I can only imagine as a parent, there's just nothing that feels better than walking into a store and seeing your child light up with joy when they find all of these amazing items. And I know so many of us have had horrible shopping experiences that end in tears. I don't know, I just think growing up in a bigger body, it's like when I look back at photos of high school and I'm at size 12, it's like in 2002, size 12 was a size 24. I mean, if you weren't a size 2, you were fat. And I know all my friends over size 4, which whether you want to empathize with the smaller or mid-sized people or not, the reality is they all felt super fat. So, obviously looking back now, I have realized that I wasn't very much bigger than any of them at all, but that mentally, I think the media, and I hate referring it to the media, but it's like what you see and what you're being told in magazines and what you see in movies. And when you're looking at Sandra Bullock's entire basically rib cage popping out through a flimsy slip dress and you've never even seen your ribs, that's definitely an experience that can suck growing up.
How has co-owning such a body positive and size inclusive shop, has that helped to heal that a little bit?
It really has been healing. I mean, I feel like I'm deprogramming 33 years of diet. I'm turning 40. In case you're bad at math. But, to me, it's like if you've been... I got into body positivity or whatever, the plus size world, when I was about 27. So the way I see it, that's about 20 years to deprogram. So I'm about 13 years in, and I feel like maybe in 7 years, it's not going to be such an everyday practice. It's going to just be like, it is what my brain does every day. I really have to hope and pray that. But I do understand that it is a daily decision. I won't say battle. I won't say struggle. I will say it is a daily decision to be grateful for the body that I have, to adorn it with the most beautiful things that fashion has to offer, to paint my face and do my hair in this Fraggle style, whatever it is. But you know what I mean? It's like we
Yes.
decide to do that and to adorn this body. I'm not waiting for 5 pounds to wear the dress, to do the thing, to get on, whatever it is, whatever you want to do right now. I mean, for me, it's been a gift that I am no longer waiting on anything to live my life. And I think we often find so many of our, plus size siblings in this world waiting. I'll get on the dating apps when I lose 20 pounds. I'll get that sexy dress when I do this. I'll go to Paris when I'm that. No, go now. Buy the 2 seats, get the seatbelt extender, and get your ass to Paris, no matter how big it is.
Absolutely. I've gotten better about not waiting to do things because of my size. But I remember when I was in high school, I had stopped doing dance because I played basketball. And I had stopped doing basketball when I entered high school. And I was like, okay, I need to lose this amount of weight and then I'll go back to dancing. And 2 years later, I hadn't lost that weight. And I finally was like, I just should just go and do dance again. And the one thing I regretted was that I hadn't gone back to it sooner. All right. So let's get into the movie The Heat that we're talking about. I'm going to read a little synopsis and then we can get into more of our thoughts on it.
Perfect.
All right. So just in case you don't know what this movie is, it has Sandra Bullock and Melissa McCarthy in it. Absolutely love both of them. I'm kind of obsessed. All right. So, where is it at? There it is. FBI Special Agent Sarah Ashburn, who's played by Sandra Bullock, is a methodical investigator with a long-standing reputation for excellence and arrogance. In contrast, foul-mouthed, hot-tempered detective Shannon Mullins, played by Melissa McCarthy, goes with her gut instincts and street smarts to remove criminals from the streets of Boston. Sparks fly when these polar opposites have to work together to capture a drug lord, but in the process, they become the last thing anyone expected, buddies. We are also, just so you know, we're focusing on mostly Melissa McCarthy's character, Detective Mullins, but we can also talk about Sandra Bullock if we are so inclined. But yeah, that's the synopsis. So, first thoughts?
Where do we start? I mean, listen, why couldn't she be like the hot, glamorous detective and then ugly duckling, skinny mini Sandra Bullock? I can still show you the ropes. I'm going to put you in a great costume and put you in a wig. If you think of a movie with Rebel Wilson and Anne Hathaway, where they kind of play con artists, but it's like essentially the same idea, but Rebel Wilson's like, I think, glamorous, and she's not like this dowdy wardrobe. I mean, I think I'm just so tired. I loved The Heat. I think the Heat is hilarious. I love the like Irish family. I love like all the brothers that are like, fuck ups. I love just the casting is so fun and like so many random people in the movie. And but I am tired of seeing the plus size protagonist always portrayed the same way. And I don't know why Melissa McCarthy continues to agree to do these roles in such a fashion. Like, I mean, in Bridesmaids, I mean, she's just this like weird dowdy. She's got that weird outfit on, she's like always playing this character, and it's really just because she's fat. Like if she was, I don't think that the question is like, does it land if she's not fat? Do the jokes land if she's not fat? When she's offering her like the sandwich, for example, right? Or it's like whatever. It's like, so much of the humor does have to do with her size. Like that's kind of another subject, but I would say for the wardrobe, definitely negative 10. And then, obviously like the fat jokes are always a thing that have to play into it, or like, being at the club and one has to be like the seducer and one has to, go and like distract and do the silly thing. Like I'm definitely not the class clown of my group. I'm definitely not the like one prat falling around. I just think it's always like the fat person that's the butt of the joke. And it, to me, other than like the fact that I actually did like this movie, you just almost wish that like the roles were reversed. Like, couldn't the funny person been the skinny person, and couldn't Melissa McCarthy have played Sandra Bullock's role and still been kind of like out of her element and like, out she comes in this like sexy svelte dress and I don't know. Those are my initial thoughts.
Yes, I absolutely agree with everything you just said. I've most of her things that I've seen her in, other than Gilmore Girls, she is very frumpy and like I guess tomboyish, you could say. Like
Mm-hmm.
she dresses down and all that. And I do wonder, like, is she wanting to take these roles? Is she taking them because that's all Hollywood is willing to offer her? Like, because I also saw her in a movie for one of my film classes called Can You Ever Forgive Me?
So
Yes, and it's not a comedic role. I mean, she still is dressed
still
frumpy.
plays a weirdo, and she still
Yeah.
plays just like the wardrobe is so crazy. I
Yes.
honestly, in Seven Perfect Strangers with Nicole Kidman, which was a series, she plays a glamorous author. And so she's at this like mushroom retreat, and she's wearing like these gorgeous caftans and scarves. I mean, she really does look glamorous. I want to say that no, she's definitely not like does she want these roles? I mean, I think everybody that's acting in Hollywood that's over 40 wants any role. But I think
True.
Melissa McCarthy is at a place in her career where she could be more in the driver's seat of things
Mhm.
like that, or certainly taking a role and maybe like tweaking it. I also don't know that she isn't like, I mean, I would have to go and look and see, is she an executive producer on this movie? She might
Pro
be. And she might
probably.
the reality is that this is the lowest common denominator form of
Yeah.
humor. And so it is what the majority of our country finds funny and finds to be true, right? So the fat person
Mhm.
is white trash. She's overweight. She has a shitty apartment. Also, like, why is her apartment so shitty if she's like a successful detective, right? Like,
Yeah.
maybe it's like she's kind of attached to her roots and she doesn't want to leave, right? She's kind of undercover. There's like a lot to that character that's kind of like
Mhm.
confusing, but I think as far as like the fat person being the butt of the joke, she continues to accept those jokes. And I know people that act that say, yeah, I'm going to say all these things. I'm going to cut that joke. I don't like that joke.
Yeah.
And I don't, Melissa McCarthy is definitely much more in the driver's seat than a typical fat actress in Hollywood. She is a
Yes.
leader. She is definitely in the A list, in my opinion, or at least
Mhm.
B list. You know what I mean? Like she's up
Yeah.
there. So I don't know. I think she also is fat phobic. I think she's probably has her own internalized fat phobia, and this is her thing, you know? But I've seen her
Yeah.
out and about in Hollywood, and she looks gorgeous and glamorous and carrying her big, expensive designer bag. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's who she is inside her heart, this sort of nerd, goofy person. But
Yeah.
I just am dying to see her play more non-goofy roles. More, they can be conniving, they can be, sexy, or they could be funny. I think about the other movie where she plays Tammy,
Yes,
and
I've seen Tammy.
what is it?
I've seen Tammy, yeah, it's
Tammy, right? It's
hilarious.
like Tammy's
Yeah.
its own. I mean, Tammy is the same character. She's always just like this raggedy t-shirt wearing, no makeup, always a goofball, like almost like she has like actual like mental something's up. You know what I mean? Like she's always like making
Yeah.
bad decisions, and I don't know. I would love to see her elevate herself so that the roles in films could feel a little more elevated for plus size people.
Yeah. I also know that I feel like a lot of what she does on screen is improvised, I
Mm.
believe, because of her background in comedy. So even some of those, fat phobic jokes or jokes focused on her weight might be thought of by her,
And they're
you know?
not funny. I mean, the reality is that all of these characters she plays are hilarious. Like
Yeah.
her movies are so funny. I mean, some of the funniest parts of this film have nothing to do with her being fat. When they're taping, like when they're wasted at the bar and they're taping their faces,
Yes.
that's so funny. Like I'm dying to play that game with someone someday. Like, I think that she is a talented improviser and a talented actor, and it's just more about like, can't we get something else? Like, we've seen this before. We've seen this character so many times. I think for me, I would love to see some more fat representation that is aspirational, that it's like, can't the character be rich? You know, if you think of like, I don't know, what characters in other movies could have been played by a fat person really well. I think of like Crazy Rich Asians, like
Yeah.
Aquafina. Her character was hilarious,
Mm-hmm.
but could have easily been like a plus size person, you know, which is
Yes.
rich, stylish, you know, blah blah blah. That's a random reference, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just like reversing the roles. Like, could
Mhm.
Melissa and Sandra have switched roles, and would it have been as funny?
So actually, I looked it up, and she is not the producer for this movie. She did produce Tammy, Life of the Party, The Boss, Thunder Force, which I haven't seen Thunder Force.
Life of the Party is also fun. I
Mm-hmm.
guess my question is, like, for her as an executive producer, and you know, her husband's a writer. I know some
Mm-hmm.
of these they've written themselves. Maybe somebody brings it to her. I just have to wonder, like, don't you want to be wouldn't you want to play an aspirational character? And maybe that's just like too contrary, like the aspirational isn't comedic, and so that's why she's just playing this kind of polar opposite from who she really is, which
Yeah.
kind of makes me feel a little better. Like, maybe if we're being a little esoteric about it, Melissa McCarthy is actually kind of like punking everybody, right? Making them think that she's this goofy weirdo, when in fact she's actually a really glamorous and rich Hollywood star. But hey, guess what? They buy popcorn and pay money to see her act like a buffoon.
They do.
So I don't know. Maybe she's punking everybody as it is. But
Mm-hmm.
I would have to believe that even despite her being a producer or not, at the level that she is, she would still have some creative control and or a voice to
Yes.
express that wardrobe's horrible. I want this that way, you know, whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is. I would encourage, you know, any plus size actress to be their own advocate. The reality is that they're just going to say no if they don't want to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
If someone says, "Oh, we couldn't find you any wardrobe," give them a list of resources. Tell them, call Eloquy, call the Plus Buzz, call Fashion to Figure, call Good American, like Anthropology. Give them the resources that they can then dress you in such a way that, you know, is better. But yeah, I mean, she is certainly not some D-list newbie on
No.
the street that can't pipe in or not take roles. She's not out here trying to pay her rent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, she's definitely like well off. So I would love to see her do some more drama. I mean,
Yeah.
I think, what was the one that you mentioned earlier?
Can you ever
Will You Ever
forgive me?
Forgive Me? So good, so good, and such an interesting story. I mean, I would love to see her, you know, in some more kind of more glamorous things. And actually, I feel like Rebel Wilson also, even though R.I.P. Just kidding,
Mm-hmm.
no, R.I.P. to her fatness. But at least, like, I feel like her roles are typically like, she's pretty cute, she's
Mm-hmm.
kind of fun and spunky, she thinks she's popular, she thinks she's hot, she's got a boyfriend. You know, there is this element of like Fat Amy, or in the movie with Anne Hathaway where they're like con artists, where she is like kind of like hot and pretty. And so,
Yeah.
you know, I would just like to see more of that. And I would love for Melissa McCarthy to, you know, be the producer on a scripted aspirational film. She doesn't have to star in it.
Yeah.
If she's a comedic actor, like, she doesn't have to star in it.
Mm-mm.
But I would love to see her advocate for our people more.
Yeah.
Melissa, if you're listening.
Yeah. And me too. Well, uh-huh.
We'll cut out.
I definitely wonder if it is partially that internalized fat phobia, though, for her.
Oh, no, it is.
Yeah.
It is. It's not a wonder. I mean, it is. And I think, you know, and I have no judgment over what I know she's gone to lengths, you know, to change her body.
Mm-hmm.
And it has changed. If bodies change, right? That's the number one thing we can count on. Our body is going to age every single day. So you can see her through the years kind of like yo-yo about. And I think she's kind of like evened out now somewhere. But I would just love to see her just be more aspirational and less of a goofball. And at the same time, the movies that she makes are hilarious to me. And often she is the biggest laugh. I mean, in Bridesmaids, her character, I mean, some of those one-liners, I'm going to climb him like a tree. Like, I still think about her lines, you know? I mean, the whole scene in the airplane, like, it's just, she is such a comedic genius. I mean, it would be really fun to see her be in a movie with like 4 fat friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what if it was like Melissa McCarthy and Lonnie Love and I don't know, some other fat person, some fresh face. I mean, there's so many stories to be made. Like, where
Mhm.
is our fat friends? Where is our, everlasting? I mean, there's just every movie that's made, just like The Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
Every movie about boy meets girl, it's like, let's just see it with a fat character. I would love to, see Hollywood catch up a little faster. It
Yes.
really seems like the cartoons are. So it would
Mhm.
be awesome to see more representation. And like in the meantime, we'll just make our own content and
Exactly.
support one another and share it. Um and yeah, but I mean, I think I do know she is one of the comedic geniuses of our time. I do just wish there was like more to it than what she's doing. And yet at the same time, it's like, girl, she's laughing all the way to the bank. So good for her.
Every week, I ask whether or not you think this fat representation is positive or negative.
Ooh.
I know this one's a hard one.
I mean, I would say it's negative. I
Yeah.
would say that despite her being a high profile FBI agent, she is doing nothing to advance fatness, right? I
Yes.
mean, the fat part of her is almost worse than being from the family that she's in. It's almost the worst part about her, it seems
Mhm.
like. And then I don't even know if it's even part of the character at all. It's just like the aesthetic of it is obviously it's Melissa McCarthy and she's fat. I
Yeah.
don't know that her being fat is like that big of a story point. It's really not. But you can't help but kind of in contrast to the Sandra Bullock character, the whole thing with the Spanx and like the cutting of the Spanx is hilarious to me. But I don't know. I mean, I would have to say it's negative.
Yeah.
But overall, I would say the movie is fun.
Yes. I definitely enjoy the movie, absolutely. And like I said earlier, there's nothing wrong with it. We just need Hollywood to catch up and start making just as many movies um with fat characters that are the main character that don't have to be frumpy or funny as they do with the ones like this. That's what we need.
Absolutely.
So after season 1 ends, I'm taking a little bit of break, and before that I'm recording some mini episodes to talk about like fat tropes. And I think I talk about in the mini episodes, like, the problem isn't that you enjoy these movies. The problem is that there's not enough of fat people being put in those characters that has nothing to do with your fatness or is aspirational or is the lead or the hero. Like, it's always the sidekick. Like, there's, the fat funny friend.
Honestly, I hated Mike and Molly. Like, I hate Mike and Molly. I hate how much of I've seen literally like 6 episodes, and they're always on a diet, or like the whole
Mm,
episode is like, is Mike gonna have cake on his birthday? Like, really? Like, really, really? This is what we're like, the whole episode.
mm,
Is her and his mother are fighting about Mike having birthday cake. And I mean, that doesn't do anything to advance like the conversation about anything. I mean,
yeah.
really, it's just complete nonsense. So I think the tropes are so real and they're so pervasive. I don't know if you're familiar with Super Fun Night. It was a really short lived series that Rebel
No.
Wilson had. And Rebel Wilson, in scene 1, episode 1, gets dumped and is eating a full pizza by herself and a gallon of ice cream. It's like, you know, not every person is an emotional eater.
Yeah.
Not every person is turning to a pizza. You know what I'd be turning to? Another guy. That's how I used to cope with my breakups, honey. Not a gallon of ice cream.
Mhm.
But it's just so tired of that. I mean, even the whole fat Monica. I mean, I know we're getting like away from the heat, but
Yeah.
it is such a fascinating topic to talk about,
Hmm.
film and how people are portrayed in television. Because I just feel like we've just yet, like, give us a fat princess, anything, like I would
Yes.
take anything to see somebody that is more like myself.
Like Sharon
And
Rooney in Barbie. I loved seeing her in that.
but did you love her just because she was there? Or
Probably,
did you
yeah.
love her wardrobe? And
I
her
did love
wardrobe
her
was,
wardrobe.
no, it was so bad.
Really?
It was, you loved her because she was there. And you know what? Guess
True.
what? I love her because she's there too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad for Sharon Rooney that she was there. I'm thankful to Mattel and to the filmmakers for including a plus size Barbie. But where was Ashley Graham when she was actually the first curvy Barbie? She could have been in there. You had all of these ancillary Barbies.
Yeah.
And there could have been a curvy one and a fat one and an old one. And, I mean, to me, Sharon Rooney's wardrobe was egregious compared to the other Barbies. And you would have to go back and you would have to really look. Why is she always wearing leggings? Every outfit had leggings or like a tight. Nobody else was wearing tights. She's got these like outfits that are just, not to burst your bubble. I'm
No,
so
you're
glad she was
fine.
there. If she didn't have the plus size representation, I would have been devastated. But I mean, this gets into like, even now that we're talking about Barbie, America Ferrera is finally talking about how she's never been fat. And yet, for
Yes.
me growing up, that was the person, America Ferrera. America Ferrera's curvy. America Ferrera. I have to go back and watch Real Women Have Curves because at the time I hated it. I didn't want anything to do with it. I wanted nothing to do. But it's like I was never represented by America Ferrera because she was never fat or even thick or even that curvy. So, all of our media has problems. And I think it's important to say, thank you, Greta Gerwig, for including a plus size Barbie. But it wasn't enough. Okay. Round 2, let's see if we can do a little more body diversity. Let's see could we get a plus size costumer? Could we give Sharon Rooney a little love? I mean, she's like 30 years old. She's young. And her wardrobe was like if she was 60. I think we're so used to having zero representation
nothing.
that we get one little bite and we're like, it's my favorite movie. They had a fat character.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with what you're saying. I only saw
I
it once.
overall loved it too, by the way. Loved Barbie. Loved.
I only saw it once, so I'll definitely, when I rewatch it, have to pay more attention to her costuming compared to everyone else's.
We're one step closer. It's just now the next piece of the puzzle is the wardrobe. And I mean, that's been something that, as owning the Plus Bus, I've had people come to the Plus Bus telling me I was an extra on big shows for, let's just say, brands like HBO. And they'll say they didn't have any clothes for the plus size people. So I'm an extra in a scene. It's a party scene. There's a huge group of extras. And the only people that had to bring their own clothes were the plus size people. So this is a problem happening top to bottom still in Hollywood, where we are not seeing even equity in the wardrobe department. And like, that's with the fat phobic costumers, I'm so lucky that we get to interact with the most amazing costumers almost on a daily basis. And right now, like, there is a strike going on. And so like, my heart really does go out to everyone that's like out of work right now. And we're really feeling the pinch in LA. We all are. But the reality is that while we get those costumers that are like, oh my God, I'm so glad we found you. I love you, this store so much. I need this resource. There are so many people that are fat phobic and can't Google plus size clothing and, don't even know what ASOS is. And that's lazy to me. It's lazy.
Yeah.
If you're planning a club scene and there's 100 extras, you could go on fashionnova.com, spend $3,000 and you would have had clothes for your extras.
I'm not surprised, honestly, that you say that, because I've dealt with it. I've had so I do like community theater stuff. I've had a couple roles where I've had to have a matching outfit with someone that is a very different body type than me, and every single time it's up to me to figure it out. So, yeah.
That's the worst. I'm so sorry. I mean, I did theater growing up, and I remember vividly like the director being like this to my waist to get me in a dress, and it zipped. I was like 9. I mean, I was like just like so young, I wish she would have just given me a bigger dress and we could have taken it in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's incredibly stressful. I mean, at like 9 or 10 years old, I quit a dance recital. I grew up dancing as well, as you mentioned earlier. And I remember telling my mom that I thought something didn't look good on me. And in retrospect, I really wish she had just said, you look great, honey.
Yeah.
And put a little net in it maybe, or I don't know, got me a spray tan. Who knows what could have helped? But I really don't think that I should have quit. And
Yeah.
I quit and I didn't do the recital because I didn't like the costume. And that kind of breaks my heart for little 8-year-old or 9-year-old Marcy. You know, I wish that she didn't even know what flattering was. Like, how
Yeah.
does an 8-year-old know something's not flattering?
You want to say that along with recital stuff, I can like block this out of my memory. So the year before I stopped because of basketball, I wore like shapewear under one of them because it was so tight on me. And
Mm.
then the last 2 years that I did in high school, I had to buy two costumes and pay someone to sew them together so that I could have a costume for the recital.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's very much
So
a
you
problem.
knew it Oprah.
Yeah. Me and Oprah, we're the same.
But it is a problem. And I would only imagine that if we were to go into the Danskin catalogs or look at a catalog right now for like cheer costumes, it's like, what size are they going up to? Hopefully 2X at least, right? You
Yeah.
know, it's like, but I see 17-year-olds walk into the Plus Bus that are 4Xs. I do. And that sucks that it's not going to be accessible to them. So,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, every day a new brand is born. Every day there's a new resource for plus size people. Every day there is somebody making a stride towards creating something, whether it's a podcast or a magazine or a clothing line, you know, to advance our people.
Yes.
But it's definitely, you know, I think we have a lot of room to grow. And we always say at the Plus Bus, there's white space. There's so much space in the plus size world. And that can be media, that can be in dance, that can be in clothing, whatever, right? It's like anything that the sun touches, there are fat people there, and there are fat people
Yes.
that need that thing and that resource and that are interested in it. There's just so much work to be done. And like, I love being able to be a part of the solution through the Plus Bus and owning a boutique. I mean, it's important for us to be seen and take up space and take photos and wear the bikini and, you know, be in all of the areas of this world that every other skinny person is.
Right. Well, thank you again for being here. Do you want to plug any events, social media?
Oh my goodness. I am the Marcy Minute online everywhere, and I co-own a store called the Plus Bus. You can find us online, and I see your dress you got at the Plus Bus that you're wearing.
Yes, I was like, I have to wear it.
Beautiful in Bacall. I almost sold one this morning. So yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm just so thankful to have the opportunity to talk about this. It's so interesting and fun, and I think that it's really awesome that you're doing this, and I'm excited to hear the other episodes. And I think just keep doing it, keep talking about it, keep bringing things up, and you never know who's listening.
I know. Maybe it's Melissa McCarthy.
I'm gonna send it to her. We're DM.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you everyone for listening. You can follow the podcast on Instagram at bbb.podcast and TikTok at bbb.thepodcast. You can also follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Carolina Howie. And I hope you all enjoyed. And until next time, stay fat and fabulous. Bye.